savage, brutal, barbaric. These are just a few of the words that might come to mind when you hear the word Viking. Infamous for their ruthless raids and ferocious battle tactics, these seagoing warriors have continued to fascinate us even hundreds of years after the end of the Viking Age. But why are we so captivated by these merciless raiders who terrorized Europe for centuries? Were the hands responsible for destroying entire villages and taking human lives capable of gentler tasks? Were the Vikings able to create graceful, intricate art just for art's sake, or were their talents spent solely on the art of war? Although there is minimal archaeological evidence from this intriguing culture, one thing is certain. The Norse people were capable of beautiful, subtle, alluring art that can still be appreciated over 1,000 years later. Lasting from the end of the 8th century to late 1100 CE, the Viking era was the final stage of the Iron Age. The beginning of the Viking Age is usually marked by the first Viking raids and ends with the Christianization of Scandinavia. Because of this, Viking artwork shows a gradual inclusion of Christian motifs. Although Viking art changes over time, one aspect that stays constant is zoomorphic motifs. Two styles of animal motifs dominated early Viking art: ribbon animals and the gripping beast. The ribbon animals were based on non-naturalistic, ribbon-like animals used to form interlaced patterns, which are difficult for the untrained eye to decipher. They included such predatory creatures as the boar and raven, and the aristocratic image of horse and rider. The gripping beast, compared with the more traditional animals, appear to be somewhat randomly disposed, except that their legs reach out for the frames around them to grip with their feet, or else they grip their own bodies. The heads are normally full-faced, with necks and bodies that are no more than ribbons. A sword found in a grave in Steinsvik, Norway, displays a perfect example of the gripping beast motif in its hilt. The sword is inlaid with silver and copper wires, and has 13 cast bronze panels that each contain the gripping beast. The Broa mounts, which were found in a grave with a man and a horse skull in Broa, Gotland, display both the ribbon animal and gripping beast styles. They are considered masterpieces of Scandinavian ornamental metalwork and date back to the later part of the 8th century CE. There were 22 gilt bronze harness mounts found in all, and they are thought to have come from the same workshop, and possibly from the same craftsman. Because of the superior craftsmanship and wide assortment of ornament displayed by the Broa mounts, this phase of art in Scandinavia is sometimes called the Broa style. While animal figures and motifs permeate almost all styles of Norse art, so too do human figures, mainly for the purposes of creating narrative art. One such figure that is common in Norse art is the one-eyed god, Odin, the god of war and ruler of Asgard, home of the gods. An example of this figure can be seen on ornamental helmets found in aristocratic graves in Vendel, Sweden. A set of rectangular bronze dies were found as well, which were used to stamp these figures into the ornamental helmets. One of the dies seems to depict a one-eyed figure with a horned helmet engaging in a ritual dance, which is assumed to be the god Odin. Another example of human figures in Viking art can be seen in a series of small female figurines made of silver and thought to be a representation of the Valkyries. In Norse mythology, the Valkyries were demigoddesses who escorted the brave warriors killed in battle to Valhalla, or Odin's Hall of the Slain. The Vikings' belief in an afterlife is no more evident than on the picture stones found at Gotland, which is a large island in the Baltic Sea that was prosperous during the Viking Age. These picture stones were made of limestone, lightly incised, and would have originally been painted. One such stone even provides evidence that the Vikings practiced human sacrifice. There are 5 narrative scenes shown on the picture stone from Gotland, each separated into horizontal bands and depicting a different registration. The top registration shows a human sacrifice being performed in front of a man hanging from a tree, which could signify sacrifice to the god Odin. Males of all different species, including human male slaves, were sacrificed to Odin and hung from a tree. The most important registration on the stone, however, is found at the bottom, where a large Viking ship full of warriors appears to be sailing to Valhalla, or the afterlife. This belief in an afterlife is reinforced once again with the discovery of the ship burial at Oseberg, for which the first style of Viking art is named. The Oseberg style lasted for the first 3/4 of the 9th century, and is responsible for some of the most iconic images in Viking culture. The Oseberg ship burial took place in 834 CE and was located in Vestfold, southeast Norway. Because the incredible richness of the burial contents is far greater than that of any other Viking Age grave found, it is believed that it was a royal burial. In addition to the artifacts, the grave contained the bodies of 2 women, thought to be that of a queen and her companion. The idea that the second female body was a slave is unlikely because evidence has shown that the 2 women shared the same diet. The particular importance of the Augsburg burial for archaeology and art history is not only its high status, but also the exceptional degree of preservation in the numerous organic grave goods contained in the mound. The ship would have been state-of-the-art for its time, and was shaped in the image of a sea serpent with a coiling snake's head forming its prow. The edges are carved with ribbon animals, and also contain some gripping beasts, which in this case appear to be more human than beast. The wagon found in the Augsburg burial is decorated with classic ribbon animals, with a dramatic scene between 3 figures shown on one side. The importance of the scene is unknown. It is thought that the wagon was a ceremonial vehicle, perhaps even used in the funerary procession. Immediately following the Augsburg style was the Boré style, which became popular throughout all of Scandinavia. The main motifs of the Boré style are geometric interlaced knot patterns in zoomorphic shapes, in the form of single animals. The most popular animal motif is the gripping beast, and negative space is usually filled up by using ribbon shapes intertwining with the animal's body. Because of this lack of negative space, the Boré style is characteristic for its apparent absence of background. The knot motif in this style is known as the ring chain, where ribbon shapes are intertwined to create interlacing circles. Mounts from a horse harness made of gilt bronze were found in a ship burial at Boré, Norway, which displays this ring chain style and is also where the name for the Boré style originates. The Boré style was the first Viking art form to be adopted overseas, from Russia to Iceland. It was also adopted on stone monuments across northern England and the Isle of Man. In fact, one of the first Christian runestones to be erected by the newly converted Vikings was found on the Isle of Man. This 10th century cross slab incorporated the use of the ring chain style and is one of the first instances we see of Christian influence in Viking art. The next styles to come about in Norse art are the Jelling style and the Mammon style, which share close links. The Jelling style is named after the ornamentation on a small silver cup, which was found in the burial mound of a mid-10th century Danish family at Jelling in Jutland. Engraved around the cup are zoomorphic figures, predominantly an interlaced pair of S-shaped animals. The S-shaped animals will become the main motif in the Jelling style. Another important artifact that displays this style is the Jelling stone. Standing at 8 feet tall, this granite stone is the most complex runestone to have ever been seen in King Harald Bluetooth's realm, and was erected after his conversion to Christianity in 965 CE. On one side of the 3-sided stone, which would have originally been painted, is a depiction of Christ with outstretched arms bound around with tendrils, but without the cross itself. Another side of the stone shows runes, which proclaim that King Harald had made the Danes Christians. The third side of the stone depicts a fight between a lion and a snake, which could be interpreted as having religious or military symbolism. The lion, known as the Great Beast, shows characteristics of the Mammon style. Such features as the profile depiction, spiral joints, and double contouring of the body all relate the Mammon-style Great Beast to the S-shaped ribbon animals of the Jelling style. The Mammon style began in the later half of the 10th century and got its name from the designs inlaid in silver on an iron axe. This axe was found in the grave of a wealthy male at Mammon in Jutland. One side of the Mammon axe depicts a ragged foliage design, while the other side shows a bird with a crested head. The human mask engraved at the top of the blade is a popular motif in the Mammon style. The Bamberg and the Kamen casket are both considered to be Mammon masterpieces. These relics exhibit characteristics of the Mammon style, such as intricate, embellished carvings of birds, and were only so well preserved because they were held in ecclesiastical treasuries. With the adoption of the Great Beast and foliate motifs, the Mammon style represented an unusually innovative phase in the development of Viking art. It is likely that the popularity of the Mammon style was a result of it having been made fashionable as the court art of the powerful King Harald. The last 2 styles of Viking Age art, before the introduction of European Romanesque, were the Ringerike and the Urn style. These 2 styles displayed design innovation while continuing with traditional motifs, and both were considered highly important in Norse art. The Ringerike style borrowed heavily from Western European styles, which shows in the use of foliate patterns. These patterns, however, were reworked with a confidence that was lacking during their period of introduction in the preceding Mammon style. 3 well-preserved ship vanes found in Gotland, Sweden, and Norway are all perfect examples of the Ringerike style. They share similar construction as well as a 3-dimensional casting of a great beast mounted on top so as to survey the horizon. The Urn style, which came about immediately following the Ringerike style, was named for a stave church in western Norway. With its incredible preservation and complex design, the Ernst Church is an ideal example of the transition from Viking to Christian art. This style was fashionable during the widespread Christianization in Scandinavia, which shows in its motifs, most notably the crucifix. This silver crucifix pendant, found in Gotland, depicts Christ bound to a cross with intertwining tendrils, which combines both Christian and Viking styles. The Ernst style came to dominate Scandinavian art during the second half of the 11th century, while the Viking Age was drawing to a close. With its constant expansion, the Ernst style seems to be an expression of the mindset of the period. While images of Christ and foliage became more present, the traditional animal motifs that had dominated Viking art for 300 years faded away. Although the Viking Age was relatively short-lived, the artwork produced by this enigmatic society can be seen as evidence that the Norse people were human like any other. Such stunning creations are not something that would be expected of a society that is typically associated with destruction. From the elegant design of the Oseberg ship to the intricate patterns on the Boré mounts, these ancient treasures serve as reminders that it is human nature to express oneself through art. Whether Viking or Englishman, pagan or Christian, the inclination to create lives innately within every human being.